Both the sisters are stay-at-home moms. Both the husbands make properly money. One makes fantastically greater than I do. But each, my wife and I have expert careers, we don't have youngsters, and we're way extra responsible with money. As an end result, we have a lot more investments, etc., and we do not have to pressure motors full of child debris, and we take excellent trips as soon as or twice a year. It absolutely grates on each sisters, and by using extension, their husbands. So we get some petty behavior from them on an ongoing basis. Overall, neither my spouse nor I revel in their organization, which is why I desired to pass the get-together. Just not worth it to me. But my wife is a wonderful character and is typically joyful to see them. Hopefully subsequent time your spouse may not sense guilted into going. That's probable the one effective issue that will come out of this. Wife is much greater tolerant and forgiving than I am closer to my siblings, but based on what she was once pronouncing on the way domestic, I suppose she's had it with them as well. Your dad sounds awesome. Yeah, my dad's very chill. He loves being around companies of people, used to be in sales, likes humans to enjoy themselves, and is, without a doubt, enjoying existence as a retiree. He and 2 different guys with him just sat there and watched the show. Mom's cool too, however, the scenario upset her. Kids, okay. The children are fine. By using the time I left, they were inside staring at TV. I suppose they're 7, 9, 10, 10, and 11 Tinkinson. It was the center 3 who played kamikaze with me. I'm guessing the 11-year-old egged them on. She's typically the ringleader. You phrased the phase about your dad and mom web hosting a barbecue oddly. I had to shorten the put-up to suit in the persona limit. My folks are gregarious and like to have people over. They have the traditional fantastic for entertaining residents and are continually coming up with a cause to get together. They desired everybody to be at their region for the 4th of July, but one of my sisters and her family have been on a vacation. So this used to be a faux 4th of July birthday party, complete with flags, crimson, white, and blue decorations, barbecue, a margarita machine, etc. Sparklers had been promised to the kids. My nieces and nephews have been the solely youngsters there. All of the neighbors are older like my parents. Oop is voted not the a-hole. Update post August 17, 2023, nearly 1 month later. First off, my folks informed me that my nieces and nephews are all top swimmers and that they use the pool all the time. The 7-year-old is nonetheless a beginner, however, he loves the water. My sister simply stated they couldn't swim, so I'd appear bad. To be fair, none of the youngsters are allowed in the deep give-up, which is where they fell in. It was once the 2 10-year-olds and the 9-year-old who tried to push me into the pool. After we left, the celebration ended on an extraordinarily bitter note. My drunk brother-in-law, who face-planted while yelling at me, had to go to an urgent care area and get his face stitched up. He was too toasted to pressure, so Dad took him. Dad was very not completely happy about this. Late that evening, my sisters started out a crew textual content and stated some simply nasty crap. Their husbands threw in a few feedback as well. Wife and I blocked the 4 of them. My mother called me. She used to be particularly upset about what they said. She and Dad had been in the chat, and I do not blame her. Because of the text, my people insisted my sisters' bills come over the subsequent day, Sunday, barring their youngsters to get some matters straight and lay down some ground rules, Mom's wording. The result was once a contrite if unenthusiastic apology from the siblings via my mom's phone. I'm satisfied my spouse used to be with me when they called. Her tough stares kept me from saying what I wanted to. I just told them thanks, and that we felt no need to talk about it further. Thinking things were settled, I unblocked them. That nighttime, I acquired a textual content from one of the bills telling me the telephones value $4 and asking when I'd be paying for them. WTF. I spoke back never, took a screenshot of his text and forwarded it to my of us, with a note that we were executed with this nonsense. We're going no contact with sisters, spouses, and now not to invite us to any extra vacations or get-togethers if they may be present. Then I blocked the sisters and their spouses again. At that point, the shit honestly hit the fan. Dad called them and ripped them a new one. Among other matters, he instructed them the grandkids have been not welcome at his place indefinitely. Since my mom oftentimes offers free babysitting, that bought them quite rattled. He also banned them from the usage of the holiday residence and instructed them, my wife and I, absolutely personal it, not he and mom. This definitely freaked them out. Both of my sisters' families used the location a lot, such as having their pals up for weekend getaways. This was very much out of personality for my folks. They'd without a doubt had it. And for reference, I in no way wanted my sisters to recognize we personal the place. We offered it for my folks. They'd always wanted a region in the mountains. Keeping the ownership quiet used to be simply a way to keep away from drama with my siblings. A couple days later, my sisters and their husbands came to our region unannounced to make an apology in person. We were out to dinner and they left a note. One sister, additionally known as me at work too, I dispatched her to voicemail. We've determined being no contact is the best element for the indefinite future and have not interacted with them for the ultimate 3+ weeks. Personally, I'm done. They can go pound sand. Relevant comments. How existence has been. It's been less than a month. However, I have to say that blocking them has without a doubt made our lives fairly more peaceful. I hadn't realized how a good deal ongoing low-level drama they create. It's not toxic. They're no longer awful people. They're simply tiresome and petty. And I, for my part, do not care about them using the weekend place. It's ours technically, but we sold it from my folks. They control it and determine who makes use of it when they aren't. We pay for all the operating expenses and taxes. One true aspect about this blow-up is that we now know what we'll be doing with the property when my people get older. I was once organized to take over managing it, allocating weekends, keeping it and such. However, now we know we will simply sell it, and if we choose to go to the mountains, we'll just lease an Airbnb. Yeah, my of us are not dumb. They're exceedingly laid, returned though, very much stay and let live. I determine they may ease up on all of this quickly, but it's their decision. We nonetheless won't be attending any family occasions for the foreseeable future. What sucks for my sisters is that they're in all likelihood very worried that I'll hold them from using the cabin. I won't. That is up to mother and dad until they are older. And it places in cease to one of the sisters' myth of building a compound of homes when we inherit the property, which I've known about for some time and had just ignored. Normally, the plenty up there solely have one area that can be built on, but this piece of property is way large because it is at the end of a road. At least 3 homes with tremendous views ought to be positioned on that land. They're no clearly sorry, they just desire matters from you. I agree completely. Of a road. At least 3 houses with awesome views should be positioned on that land. They're observe absolutely sorry, they just favor things from you. I agree completely. Their apologies don't seem to be sincere, and I have no plans to engage with them each time soon. Regarding them using the holiday home, that's truly my parents' decision. Yes, technically I own it and cowl all the charges, but I sold it for them and gave them day-to-day control over it. They're exact people, and they continually wanted a getaway region for the household, but there may be no way they may want to have ever sold it for them and gave them day-to-day manipulate over it. They're appropriate people, and they continually wanted a getaway region for the family, but there is no way they ought to have ever offered it themselves. I could have the funds to buy it for them, due to the fact I've been lucky financially, save, make investments like a demon. Plus, I obtained a huge bonus the same year I sold my domestic and moved in with my now wife. I do not care if my folks let my siblings use the residence. However, I will admit I'm enjoying my sister's pain over discovering out that I should find the money to purchase the place and let my folks use it, whilst in no way citing it to them. Dad modified the lock code when they went up last week, so now only he, Mom, my spouse, and I have it. With regards to Mom babysitting the kids, she tells me that once a week, she and on occasion Dad have been going over to every sister's area and spending the day with the kids. When school starts, she's going to select each set up from faculty as soon as a week on days and take them home, spend the night with them. She says the 5 of them together stress her out. However, separately, they're fine. Mom and Dad have both advised me they do not diagram on having my sisters and their families lower back to their place in the foreseeable future, and that they're enjoying the quiet. My bet is that they were already tired of the ancient dynamic and used the pool party nonsense as an excuse to make some adjustments to the relationships. One exciting Be Aware on Why Oops Publish was removed from IDA. According to the message I just read from the other subs moderator, the violence was once property damage. I nonetheless do not get it. The phone's being ruined, I guess? Ridiculous. Update to the update, August 26, 2023, 9 days from previous post. Well, it has been an interesting closing few days. I thought the shit had hit the fan earlier then, however, it was more of a fart compared to what's befell this week. For this to make experience, I want to furnish some financial context. My of us haven't ever been any appropriate at saving money. I've been doing their taxes for years, so I know extraordinarily a great deal the whole thing about them money-wise. Their residence is paid for and they have minimal debt. However, they did not store an awful lot for retirement. Both of them get Social Security. Dad receives a stable pension and they have a bit of financial savings, but there's no treasure chest in the basement. I offered their present-day vehicle for them after they retired, a retirement existing, so they should have something excellent to drive. It was once the first vehicle in all likelihood 20 years they didn't lease. My sisters are satisfied the people are dripping with money and that our parents will be leaving the two of them the entirety, seeing that I don't want greater money. So they've never cared about saving either. Turns out my oldest sister and her husband, they have 3 kids, have been living beyond their capability for some time and are in monetary straits. They've maxed out their deposit cards and are in the back on their automobile leases to the point that one is about to get repossessed. He'd bragged in the previous about making X per year, but it turns out to be about half that. She confessed all this to Mom on Tuesday because they want a loan and this was a WTF second for Mother and Dad, that for the closing 3 years, alternatively of staying at the vacation residence, normally she's actually been renting it out once a month or so and pocketing the cash. We're talking $2,000 plus for a weekend and at least $4,000 for a week. With her being cut off from the use of the vicinity, she's had to cancel one group already. She's now involved. They may lose everything. My people are not in any role to provide them a loan. My different sister used to be conscious of her renting out the location, but of path hasn't ever stated anything. I suspect she's achieved the equal thing as nicely because I went up there as soon as to drop off an ATV I'd labored on, and there was a household there who claimed to be staying there with my sister, her family, and that they'd gone to town for something. At the time I let it go, I figured she'd loaned out the residence to some friends, but I've always wondered. I determined all this out through of us who are enormously confused out about it. Mother greater than Dad, he is basically simply pissed off about it all. I discovered all this out via my folks who are quite burdened out about it. Mother more than Dad, he's typically simply pissed off about it all. I understand Dad feels betrayed. And I imagine he is embarrassed that he's in no position to help his daughter out. He did reiterate that as long as it's up to him, the ladies may not be using the holiday home whenever soon. My people let me recognize what's going on due to the fact they figured my sisters would put a full court docket press on me next. And they had been right. On Thursday, my sisters got here to our vicinity again, besides husbands this time, and waited backyard the door until I received home. I had to pick out between struggle with them in public, them making a scene if I went in, barring them, or letting them in, so I let them in. I acquired a bullshit story from the older sister, with the youthful one backing her up regarding why I needed to let them use the mountain place again immediately. They additionally stated I've been a shitty brother and that I wish to step up and design on paying for their kids' college lessons due to the fact that is what household does. I let them pitch their story, then referred to as them out based totally on what my people had advised me. Things went to shit from there. There used to be denial, crying, cursing, yelling. You identify it. I swear my ears are nevertheless ringing 2 days later. Won't lie, I stated some sincerely mean and shitty things to them, but nothing that wasn't true. They in the end left after about an hour. After that, I took a shower and laid down. When I got up, my spouse was once domestic, and her first words have been that she'd had to block greater cell phone numbers because my sisters were blowing up our phones from new ones. Folks messaged me the day past asking me to call. I'm sure my sisters have informed them some bullshit version of what happened, but I'm now not up to rehashing it yet. I'm usually a exceptionally energetic character, but this drama has me overwhelmed down. I had simply adequate energy nowadays to pressure up to the vacation house and padlock the entrance gate shut. I'm the only one with a key. I'm guessing that will be enough to make certain my siblings depart the location alone. They'd possibly die to stroll 400 yards uphill to get to the house. New updates from here. Update 3 post September 12th, 2023, 2.5 weeks from remaining update. Yet another update concerning the cluster F that is my extended family. Thought it would possibly be time given what's long gone on over the previous 2 weeks. After my sisters got here to my area, my mom and dad instructed me they were performed with managing the holiday home. Sounded like the sisters had been pressuring them to let them use the place again. Basically, my people exceeded the responsibility for region over to me and told me it was my hassle from here on out. Up till then, they'd kept track of who would be the use of it when, and they'd taken care of routine maintenance, replacing worn-out items, etc. In any case, they determined they did not desire to be in the middle of all this crap. While I do not blame them, I'm disenchanted because the damn area was once supposed to be something for them to enjoy and dangle out in, and they use it regularly. Plus, I've by no means cared that they let my sisters and their families use it, because truly I've continually notioned that used to be my parents' call, even though I technically personal it. But now, my people are going to be in the role of no longer having access, barring me being concerned, and that modifications the whole dynamic of the place. I've taken several steps to tightly close the place. I already noted that I locked the gate. It has a heavy-duty chain and the pleasant lock I should find. I additionally did a full reset on all the door keypads and created all new codes. Security cameras received installed yesterday, which is surely exceptionally cool due to the fact the installer satisfied me to put a excessive res one that looks out over the valley. The gadget cost me way more than I notion it would. However, the peace of mind is well worth it. The installer additionally put up symptoms on the property saying the place was once monitored with the aid of video. I additionally mounted a heavy responsibility lockout for the water shutoff drain valve. I hope to hell I don't lose the keys for it, due to the fact if I do, it is going to be a bear to attempt to remove. Haven't informed absolutely everyone but my wife that the water is locked off. And again, only we have the keys. Last week I got separate calls at my office from both of the husbands attempting to persuade me to let them use the residence like they continually have. The older one had gone up with some friends for a guy's hangout, however could not get in due to the fact of the gate lock. He was once tremendously pissed and embarrassed about being locked out. I'm certain he would have damaged the lock if he ought to have. During his call, he saved bouncing between pushy and victimhood. At one factor, he threatened to rip that gate out of the goddamn ground. He additionally admitted they'd been renting it out to a few friends, that they needed the money. I was once ruining their commercial enterprise and that I should refund their guests' money. Me? I should have recorded the dialogue with him, but I don't understand how to do that from an office phone anyway. The other invoice just sounded like he used to be being made to call through my sister. He did not actually put up a battle when I instructed him not to graph on ever using the area again. In any case, I advised them they cannot use the location and now not to ask again. At this point, I'm thinking about promoting the vacation home. Wife and I may not use it sufficient to justify maintaining it, and it's now not like there may be going to be any family get-togethers there anytime soon. I referred to selling it to my folks. Their response used to be pretty a whole lot whatever. I'd greater than double my cash by selling it. The vicinity consists of 3 a lot with killer views and is at the stop of a private road. But I'll probably wait for a while to sell. Doing so now would be an emotional decision. My sisters and I are not currently talking, and I have no plans to initiate contact. I don't understand what the repute between them and my folks is, and I don't desire to. On the upside, we spent a night with Mime with us last week, went to a new restaurant that was once nice. No one brought up any of this crap. Mom did update us on the nieces and nephews. She's spending time with them at their homes. Sorry this update is not full of laughs or owns. It really is simply existence sometimes. Update published for October 16th, 2023, 1 month later. A couple of humans have asked for an update. Right here you go. I hired a guy to manage Seam over the vacation home. He lives in the area, takes care of his folks, and manages an exact number of properties. Some are vacation rentals. Some are weekend locations like ours. He has get entry to my camera feeds and does a bodily check on the vicinity each week or two. I assume he may also have the great job in the mountains. He gets paid to pressure around with his dog, stroll around the houses, and hangs out on people's decks on every occasion he feels like it. He also has a camera feed from a house close to the begin of the private avenue that takes still shots every time an automobile goes past it. $450 per month, plus he'll do fundamental maintenance and repairs on an hourly basis. He's friends with all of the sheriff's deputies too. Got a lot of peace of thinking from doing this. And he sends photos from his walks to everyone once or twice a week. I have to brag a bit on my parents. I obtained all this from them tonight at dinner. They had been getting stress from my sisters to demand that I open up the vacation house to all people for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving up there had become pretty the subculture for the family. Now, not for me or my wife. We've got long gone once in 7 years. My dad refused to hassle me about it due to the fact he knew I'd say no. They came up with what I suppose is a notable plan, announced that they have been organizing the Thanksgiving gathering, and if absolutely everyone split the price in advance, they'd hire an Airbnb in the mountains. Otherwise, they'd host Thanksgiving at their place, or one of the sisters may want to host it. This brought about a fight between the sisters because the middle sister was all for doing the Airbnb. However, the oldest one does not have any money. The closing date to commit to the Airbnb has passed. Looks like Thanksgiving will be at my parents' place. Regardless, we may not be there. My parents have requested that we now not sell the area for now. They decided they'd nevertheless like to use it sometimes, but now not till my sisters have come to terms with the new normal. And of path, they'd probably like it if anybody could get collectively there again down the road, but that's just no longer going to happen. I'd simply as soon promote it and go on at this factor, but I can live with preserving it if us do use it now and again. Plus, it will be really worth even greater down the road. Wife and I have stayed no contact with my sisters and their husbands. Both sisters have referred to us from new numbers, FU Google Voice, and left messages insisting that I meet with them for our parents' sake to work out how all and sundry can use the family vacation home. They referred to as my spouse too. I'm happy I used to be already in the habit of not answering calls if I don't understand the number. I genuinely do not comprehend if they're delusional or if they assume they can bully me into giving them get entry to again. Don't really care. My parents informed me that the oldest sister and her husband are getting out of the leases for their SUV and big-ass truck and are selling their jet skis and some other shit they've by no means needed. That's going to be genuinely challenging on her. She's pretty the braggart and might not like being seen in something older, smaller, cheaper. My Bill's identification is very a lot wrapped up with his truck as well. He even has a small tattoo of the truck company's logo, which frankly is one of the many motives why he and I in no way hung out. Several human beings have counseled I make the vacation domestic into an Airbnb. I do not sketch to do so, at least each time soon. I know it would make cash, however, it would motive a remarkable amount of drama throughout the family and would stress out my parents. They don't want that. It would additionally be a trouble to dispose of personal things my folks have there. That stuff has nowhere to go, and there would be put on and tear on the place. And I'm certain it would take some quantity of time on my section, even though I'd use a manager to do it. Just not well worth it to me. Update Submit 5, November 27, 2023, 1.5 months later. Wrote most of this the day before yesterday, but decided to wait until I wasn't so wound up. Waiting did not work. I'm nonetheless wound up. Sorry if this rambles, so a good deal has happened, tough to write coherently. Things have gone to hell. I really certainly did not suppose whatever like this would happen. Short version, my brothers-in-law broke into my holiday home and were arrested. They've been charged with breaking and entering, destruction of property, and speaking threats, all Class 1 misdemeanors. I've refused to drop the charges. I might do so if I'm wholly paid for the harm they caused. They have been still in jail as of Saturday evening. I anticipate they're out by now. Things had settled down, at least I thought so. Haven't seen or heard from my sisters in over 6 weeks. My dad and mom went up to the house for a week and had a top time. David, the property supervisor I hired, has worked out great. He has done a couple of repairs I asked him to do, and I've given him a list that he is going to work on. He generally sends a picture or two of natural world or a sundown to his purchasers every week. Was kind of making me want to get it up there. Friday after Thanksgiving, my payments went to my holiday home. They used an angle grinder to cut through the chain on the driveway gate and broke the gate in the process. They tried to get in through the front door, ruined the lock set, and gouged the door badly. They eventually got in through the utility floor door and a locked internal door. They also broke into the barn. I'm not certain why. When they went out through the front door, they were met by sheriff's deputies and David. David gets notifications from the camera system when there is activity. He noticed what was going on and called the sheriff's department. According to David, the Bills tried to bullshit their way out of it, but the deputies didn't buy it. Breaking into an empty house is a pretty serious thing up there. Usually it's meth heads who ransack the place and hawk everything. When the Bills were arrested, they freaked out big time. Were saying how they were going to beat the hell out of me, etc. Not smart to do in front of cops. David in the sheriff's office tried calling my wife and me to see what we wanted to do, but we were spending the day with her parents and had left our phones in the car so we could be in vacation mode. So they booked the Bills on everything, which is what I would have asked them to do anyway. Bills called their wives from detention center, who of course freaked out. They called my folks, tried to call me. They're blocked, tried to find a lawyer up there to arrange bail. Not easy to do since it's a rural area and was a holiday weekend. Older sister has zero cash and her playing cards are maxed out, so if they made bail, my middle sister would have had to pay for both husbands. I comprehend they were still in penal complex as of Saturday afternoon. We didn't test our phones until late Friday on the way home from the in-laws. There had been a ton of calls and messages from my mom, dad, David, and the sheriff's department. Talk about ruining a fantastic day. I used to be in such an exact mood until I regarded at my phone. My wife read through the texts and listened to the messages, read them out to me. And by the time we got home, I had some thought of what used to be going on. I put my brain back into questioning mode, tried to get past my anger, failed. Called David and received the rundown on what had occurred and how awful the injury was, ensuing in extra anger. I ended Friday by calling the sheriff's department and telling them there was no misunderstanding. The Bills had certainly no right to be on my property and I wanted to press charges. I didn't call my folks back. Barely slept. I waited until Saturday afternoon to call my folks. They had been extremely rattled about it all, my mom in particular. My sisters had browbeat them into telling me I tell the cops it was all a mistake and that I wanted the charges dropped. I refused flat out, told them there was no way I'd do that until I spoke with an attorney, and also not until I was paid in full for whatever it will cost to restore everything 100%. My mom was crying hard by the time we got off the phone, which of course made me feel like shit. My dad suggested it was time for a complete start over, but also said he thought they needed to pay for the damage. I have not gone up to the property yet. There's nothing I can do, and I'll probably go nuts when I see the damage in person. The photos are horrific enough. I'm hoping to go up tomorrow or Wednesday, but my job isn't one I can just wander off from for non-emergencies. I've left messages with 2 lawyer buddies asking them to recommend the right lawyers to go after my sisters and Bills. I don't know what I can do exactly, but I'm hoping to get restraining orders. I have all the texts they've sent me that might help. I'm strongly considering suing them for the money they made renting the place. I don't care about the money, but it will help make them as miserable as possible. The gloves are just off at this point. 1. Bills had no thought I'd hired anybody to preserve an eye on matters, or that there are cameras there now. My dad and mom knew, but hadn't advised them, due to the fact they knew it would just provide my sisters a purpose to drama up. There are signs on the property declaring it is being monitored with cameras and no trespassing symptoms, though. 2. My wife has totally had it at this point. I don't blame her. She's been more than patient about it all. However, she reached her limit and used to be not shy about letting me know. She instructed me, it is up to me how I deal with this. However, that she notion they all wanted to be taught a tough lesson. 3. Older Bill in all likelihood may not face any repercussions at his job over this. However, Middle Bill has a safety clearance, so he might. I'm hoping that will be motivation for Middle Bill to pay for the damages himself immediately. 4. David, the caretaker, has a fascinating background. I knew he was pals with some of the deputies, figured it was because they were all locals. I used to be wrong. He was a cop in a huge city for years, used to be shot on duty, and afterwards determined to quit and move to where his mother and father had retired. He has some PTSD over it all, like his canine is a certified provider animal and is commonly with him. I know law enforcement humans tend to hang together. I wager this is how they became his buddy group. And 5, I do not choose to see or talk with these a-holes for the rest of my life. I know this is in direct battle with my overwhelming urge to make their lives as depressing as possible. Relevant comment. A lot of people have stated I should have been hard-ass about all of this from day one. I've avoided it due to the fact it would have careworn out my mother and father, and I hate this kind of drama, but F it. They're confused out now. My spouse has relatively plenty opted out of any extra to do with this, does not choose to hear about it for a whilst, and says it is in my lap. She'll ease off on that. However, I'm guessing she's not going to get involved from now on, other than listening to me blow off steam. Edit. Involving why they broke in, conjecture on my section, but I suppose they were planning on the usage of it for family getaways and or renting it out again. According to David, the property manager, it's deer season via the give up of the year. I comprehend the payments have used it in the past as base camp for huge group searching weeks. It sleeps pretty a few human beings, so one event with pals ought to internet them heaps of dollars. Again, I'm guessing right here, but that would give an explanation for why they broke into the barn as well. I offered a 6-seater mule a few years lower back and they would prefer use that. I don't suppose they desired to trash the place. It potential to a lot to my dad, and they each like him a lot. Update published December 2nd, 2023, 5 days later, December 2nd, 2023, Saturday. Didn't suppose I'd be doing every other publish this soon. However, a lot has came about over the past 2 days. Short version, I think the corner became on this crap. Thursday afternoon, I bought a courier-delivered envelope at my office. In it was a signed letter from each my brothers-in-law and a cashier's test for $5,000. In the letter, they made what I have to say was once a, without a doubt, honest apology. Among other matters, they stated breaking in, recounted it was wrong, stated the $5,000 used to be to pay for the damage, and that they'd pay extra if it valued more than that. Also said they'd remain away from the vacation home unless my spouse and I mainly invited them. They additionally requested that I do what to get the charges dropped as soon as possible because they each ought to lose their jobs, and that they'd agree to a restraining order or anything else it took for that to happen. There was once more as well, all conciliatory, but this is the gist of it. To say this was once a shock is an understatement. It was obviously a whole 180 from their past behavior. I'd already made an appointment with a legal professional to see about suing my payments over the harm and to try to get a restraining order. I called him and instructed him what I'd just acquired, and he agreed to meet with me at the quit of the day as a substitute of next week. Told me no longer to credit the check. We met for about 2 hours. He ended up recommending the spouse and I do a agreement and mutual release agreement with all 4 of them, sisters and Bills. He stated if we went after them by a lawsuit that we might nearly genuinely win, however, that it should take 2 years or more, there would be widespread upfront prison prices, and that we might by no means see any money. He additionally stated we ought to preserve the $5,000 free and clear even if we did not let them off the hook. He's drawing up the agreement. It won't be equipped till Monday. The agreement will include what's actually the civil equal of a restraining order. I'd already asked my property manager to work up a bid to get the damage repaired. I known as him after the meeting and requested that he get me as close an estimate as feasible ASAP. Got that Friday. He thinks it will take around $4,000 to restore everything. Most of that is for the front door. On Friday, my legal professional contacted every of the bills, advised them what we had been proposing, and cautioned them to get their personal lawyers. They both agreed to it. The middle consignment advised them they could have enough money to either pay for the damages or pay for an attorney, however, not each. And they figured a lawyer would not make any difference given that they really had no protection for what they did. His biggest challenge used to be if the expenses may want to be dropped. From what I can tell, they're inclined to do anything, sign something to make this all go away. My lawyer, additionally known as the DA's workplace on Friday to talk about brushing aside the charges, bought the title of the prosecutor and left them a message, however, has no longer spoken to them yet. He thinks they may push aside the charges due to the fact the payments are paying up and they owe priors. But then once more, he is not a criminal lawyer. Also stated, I should be organized to drive up there Monday or Tuesday and tell the prosecutor in character that I choose the whole thing dismissed. He's also cautioned me to proceed to be no contact with sisters and bills, mainly for the next 6 months, and that it will be simply vital to observe the phrases of the agreement when it comes to future interactions with them. I'm guessing that the bill's change of heart is due to them having figured out what's at stake for them, what it is going to cost them in prison costs and fines and so on. There's also the enormously unlikely possibility that they could go to reformatory for up to 120 days. And as I've noted, one of them has a protection clearance for his job that could be at risk. So this is their Hail Mary pass to preserve their regular lives. This isn't a best decision to the situation, but at least it will get me past the felony and economic parts of the shit exhibit that I've been in for the past few months. I doubt I'll ever have a civil relationship with any ever again, and this is fine. What I want most at this factor is to shut this off, get on with my lifestyles, and never speak to any of them again. I'm exhausted from this. Wife feels particularly tons the same way. Kind of a side difficulty, however, getting the written apology was weirdly a massive second for me. I wasn't looking ahead to that ever, but curiously it thinks to me quite a bit. The cash does not feel mainly essential at this moment. I'll damn certain take it though. Also, I'm noticeably certain my center sister and her husband got here up with the money. The cashier's test is from the deposit union of the business enterprise he works for. Once things are signed, I format to make one extra update, likely just an edit to this post. I'm sorry for being so pedantic. Writing these posts has helped clear my head, and the remarks has definitely helped. I truly recognize everyone's comments, insights, and support, and I really, really hope none of you ever have to go this form of nonsense. Relevant comment. To be honest, when I finally obtained domestic Thursday night, I cried from alleviation, thinking this might all be over. I'm now not going to discuss the settlement with my people until it's signed by way of everyone. My sisters, payments can if they desire to, but I'm not. It is between me and them. Final update, December 7, 2023, 5 days later. Tuesday morning, I met with my attorney, went over the agreement, changed a couple of minor things, and he sent it to my sisters and brothers-in-law. It protected a requirement that they pay my attorney's fee, about $3,000. They weren't happy about that and tried to negotiate it away. However, he advised them they both be given it as is, or there would be no deal at all, and we might proceed with suing them for the cash they bought from renting out the place, wear and tear from renting it, repair fees from their break-in, emotional distress, misplaced income from having to deal with this, legal professional costs, and anything else we could. He additionally told them I would push hard with the DA's office to prosecute every charge. Short version, they came in and signed. I wasn't there. I'm instructed it was an exceptionally anxious environment that the center bill regarded to have taken cost, and that at one factor he told both of my sisters to shut the hell up, or he was once taking walks away from the whole thing, making his very own deal with us, and the relaxation of them should all go to hell. They provided some other cashiers take a look at for $2,500. Claimed it really is all they had. It's close adequate that we're going to be given it as the closing payment. Attorney also informed me that all and sundry used to be very bloodless and curt in the direction of one another. However, that they all managed to hold it together lengthy sufficient to sign and left without making too massive of a scene. I drove up to the vacation house early the day prior to this to check out the damage and meet with the DA's office. Seeing the damage made my blood boil. It was so senseless. I used to be so pissed that I used to be geared up to eat the value of repairs and do everything I should to damage their lives. Tried on foot it off, failed utterly. Ended up calling a proper friend who used to be kind sufficient to remain on the telephone for over an hour, letting me spew and vent. He sooner or later obtained me again to focusing on the better picture of placing this at the back of me and getting on with my life. Honestly, I'm still now not positive that's what I want to do, but I settled down adequate to get some food in me, and I felt better. After lunch, I went DA's office. Hadn't made an appointment and had to wait a while. However, received to meet with the assistant DA who's acquired the case. Short model is that seeing that I do not favor to prosecute, and the payments have already paid for the damages that they are inclined to drop, all the charges besides trespassing, which in this case will be a Class 2 misdemeanor. The bills will have to plead guilty and pay something fine the judge sets. I'm additionally told that if they combat the trespassing cost or ever so a whole lot as fart in public up there, that it would go very poorly for them. It helped that the payments did not withstand arrest. If they had, none of the fees would have been dropped. I additionally went by way of the sheriff's office to thank them for getting there so shortly and everything. Wanted to thank the deputies, in my opinion, however, solely spoke to the dispatch person, and I tried to meet up with David, the property manager, but could not get maintain of him. A couple of notes. The agreement consists of a no contact clause. Basically, if any of them exhibit up the place my spouse or I are, or the different way around, whoever bought their ultimate has to depart immediately. No contact except through attorneys or different mutually agreed upon one-third parties. They get to hold something they made from renting the holiday house, my massive give, until I have tax penalties, which they will be responsible for. And we launch each different from all different liabilities up through the present. There's more to it than that, but these are the excessive points. Wife and I will sign the settlement later today. Here is the text without any changes. After that, I cannot talk about most of this. However, I can talk around it. I assume this is my closing update concerning all this nonsense, but I'll reply to feedback if I can. As I've said before, posting about all of this and reading folks' ideas and responses has been absolutely useful and has possibly been key in my being capable to deal with this in a tremendously wholesome way. So thank you all again. Relevant comments. I had a difficult time no longer being vindictive, but right now I'm glad I wasn't. If they reason extra drama down the street, I'll probably regret it. However, if they comply with the agreement, that might not happen. Relevant comments, but I had to do what was once first rate for my wife and I. I'm guessing that my sisters have advised them a very slanted version. This is simply one extra turd I'll have to swim around. Really, the agreement is extra formalization of how things have been for the final few months. I know it is no longer how my folks wanted matters to go. However, I'm extraordinarily completely satisfied with it. Have your sisters ever proven this stage of entitlement before? Not really. Not towards me anyway. We used to be okay. In no way very shut, but not enemies. Looking again, they started to resent me when I sold a loft when I was 25. At that factor, neither of them owned a domestic, but both had met their future husbands. They surely didn't like that received a location before they did. It acquired worse when I met my wife. They didn't like that she was once part of a wealthy family, specifically on the grounds that I used to be doing surprisingly nicely by means of then myself. Accused me of being elitist and such. When we obtained married, I moved in with my wife. Her condominium used to be close to where she used to be doing her fellowship, and I offered the loft. Our wedding was fancy, but reasonable. However, the sisters have been certainly resentful about it. After that, they and their husbands received especially petty, and we began minimizing our involvement with them. The profit from selling the loft, being frugal, and no longer having a residence payment are what enabled me to buy the vacation home for my parents. My folks had been with hiding the reality that I owned it rather of them, because they knew my sisters would be bitchy about it and say that I used to be the usage of my wife's money. I didn't. Most of our funds are separate, though it truly helped that I didn't have a house payment. Up till this crap commenced, I clearly thought we have been in the well-known sense. Our each-day lives are very extraordinary, and I cannot fake. I enjoy being around them for greater than half of a day. However, I did not suppose they hated me. I did recognize that each sisters had emerged as surprisingly spoiled, entitled, but it wasn't my concern. And I didn't have any real conflicts with my brothers-in-law either, simply nearly nothing infrequent with them. I wager it's a long-winded way of pronouncing I didn't be aware of they have been all such assholes. One final thought. My small fantasy at this factor is that I in no way hear from them again. My small myth at this point is that I never hear from them once more.